K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98talk.com. Now's the time to get involved. The Coalition for a Strong America is the only conservative grassroots organization meeting with congressmen and high-level staffers on a regular basis. Stephanie Scruggs, co-chairman, is concerned about the upcoming TPA vote.
First of all, what you need to know is that fast-track TPAs is still before Congress, where Congress gives their power to negotiate international trade agreements and treaties to the president.
She recommends contacting your representative and telling them to vote no on this measure. It comes to the floor this Thursday, June the 11th. For more information, go to coalitionforastrongamerica.com and let your voice be heard. This has been a special announcement from K98 Talk.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks. Well, it's Wednesday evening. It is hump day. We have made it halfway through the week. It is also the evening before our world may change forever. And yes, I know I sound really melodramatic right now, but I'm talking about something that most of you probably don't even know is going on. And that is the impending vote for TPA, otherwise known as Fast Track. TPA, or Trade Promotional Authority, basically, if this is passed, Congress will single-handedly, and with one fell swoop, hand powers expressly written and handed to them within the Constitution, written to them within the Constitution. They will have handed those powers to the executive branch. We are mere hours at this point away from that vote, a vote that could change this country forever. It may not change it overnight, but I'm telling you right now, the groundwork will be in place if we do not stop it now. Now we have Speaker Boehner, or Boner as I like to call him, who's mirroring the same things that were said by Speaker Pelosi when it was time to pass Obamacare. That in order for us to find out what's in it, we have to pass it first. Everybody talked about how that was being taken out of context with her. It's not being taken out of context by him, or with him, or from him. The simple fact of the matter is, there are people on both sides of the aisle that want TPA to pass. They want TPA to pass for a multitude of reasons. Now, before we get into the show, I know I just played a spot for them, but I want to give a shout out to some new friends. The Coalition for a Strong America, co-chaired by Stephanie Scruggs, who appeared with Stacy and I as I sat in on a Bloody Marys and Broadsheets episode last Sunday. They are a grassroots movement. They are a true coalition, and they are a grassroots movement, which basically means they need you. They need your support. They need your voice. They need your time. What they are doing with no corporate support, no corporate backing, which also means no corporate interference, which means they're not in the pockets of big business and they don't have anybody to answer to but us. So I urge you today, visit their website, thecoalitionforastrongamerica.com. Find ways that you can help them get involved. Follow them on Twitter, retweet the things that they're talking about if you feel that they're important. We have a whole group of our own of folks that are starting to do that now, and I am happy to report that last evening, the support on the Hill for TPA seems to be waning, and that is because of grassroots movements like the Coalition for a Strong America, and those of you that are helping get their word out. Because, folks, I'm not, trust me, they're not paying me for this, but this is important. And I didn't realize how important it was until I said it on that interview. And that's what scares me, because I live, breathe, eat, sleep politics. Enough where my wife thinks I'm insane. Enough where half of the time she's mad at me because she's wanting to watch TV and I'm flipping between Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC because I want to know if there's anything else that we need to talk about. Or she wants me to spend 5 minutes off of a computer. So I'm on my phone and I'm reading news stories from the places that I follow because this stuff is important. But I didn't realize how important and how bad of a situation we are actually in at this point, and nobody's talking about it. Except for a handful of people, no one is talking about it, but mostly it's because they can't. They're afraid to. Look at what this administration has done. Look at what was supposed to happen with Obamacare. It was supposed to save us money, remember? Supposed to save you $2,500 a family. Then it's budget neutral, so it won't really cost the government any money, won't really cost you any money either. Then it was $2,500 cost per family. Now it's last count $3,500. They just made all kinds of announcements on my drive in to do the show this evening about how they were expecting, even in my state, premiums to increase anywhere from 11 to 45% as the new fee structure for Obamacare rolls out. Do we want the same type of stuff that we got in Obamacare with our trade legislation? We have to pass it before we can know what's in it. It's being kept under lock and key. Do you realize how many folks are coming out for this? I mean, I still see people on Twitter talking about how when they start talking about Ted Cruz, how we need to send a cruise missile to D.C. And they're spelling it C-R-U-Z, so I know it's not a threat. But I'm like, are you not paying attention to his stance on TPA? Because he wants it. Anybody remember the old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely? Well, that's what these folks at the Coalition for a Strong America are fighting against. Again, they're doing it every single day. While you and I go about our daily lives, they're on the Hill, fighting the good fight, meeting with staffers, doing interviews to get the word out, like they just did recently here, and they're doing it for me, they're doing it for you, and they're doing it on their own. They do not have any corporate or government sponsorship or support. So, if you, like me, have always looked for ways to get involved and weren't sure what to do, if you are conservative, I have to warn you, if you are liberal, you might not want to go to the website. We have a liberal host here as well, and I placed in our staff chat area on Facebook that we were going to be helping this particular organization because it does align with a lot of our beliefs, and I started getting messages from the liberal host asking me if I had lost my mind. Now, that being said, if any of you liberal hosts that are with us are listening, if you have groups that you want to start supporting, all you got to do is bring me the information. I told you a long time ago, this isn't just going to be a conservative echo chamber if I can keep it from being one. The problem is I can't seem to find enough liberal hosts that actually feel like they want to be on the network. And maybe that's because we already have so many more conservatives. Because at first I was really confused because there weren't that many of us. So I kept thinking, hey, maybe we can find 3 or 4 more and start rounding it out. Now all of a sudden, within the last several months, we've gotten to the point where there's live programming almost every single evening. Which is awesome. I'm not complaining about that. But a lot of it is conservative. There are a couple of liberal shows. Those are usually done on the weekends. One of the liberal hosts is basically completely fed up with politics. So now he's doing his radio show back over on K98X, and he also does a wrestling podcast. And then when we can find the time, he and I sit down and do a show based on pop culture. Speaking of which, we got to figure out a time to do one of those again. I was going to try to do it last week, but he was on vacation in Florida. Anyway, so that being said, if your beliefs align with these people, then support them. Time, money, endeavor, it doesn't matter. Just do something, because they deserve the help and they need the help, because they're fighting the good fight, and in my estimation, in a lot of ways, they're doing it alone. So let's show them that they're not alone, if nothing else. So again, the coalitionforstrongamerica.com. You can find them at coalitionforstrongamerica.com. Go give them a look over. They do have contact us links in there as well. If nothing else, shoot them a message, tell them you support what they're doing, and let them know that if you can help in any way, you are willing to, and see what they tell you. All right, so that was the longest public service announcement ever, but it's because I had a lot I wanted to get in there. So at this point, actually, I guess let's take a look at something real quick. I'm just curious. We had started getting a list of the folks that are on the fence as far as TPA. Okay, so one of the ones that I know that the word has come out that apparently he is on the fence when it comes to TPA is Rich Nugent out of Florida. Representative Rich Nugent, Florida 11 and Florida District 11, I believe, is where he is who his constituents are. Sorry, in a second I'll remember how to talk. If you live in that area and you have concerns over the TPA vote, maybe you should send him an email, give him a phone call, let him know what your concerns are before he makes a decision. Show him that there's plenty of reason to get off the fence and to vote no. Do we really want the administration that couldn't negotiate its way out of a paper bag having full and complete and total access to trade negotiations? Somehow, to me, this seems like a very, very scary idea. Bear with me for just one more second. I'm going to go through something real quick and see. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to do. I knew there was something I was going to do. This way, if anybody gets in trouble for it, it'll be me, not you guys. I did pull up through some friends a little bit of the information from WikiLeaks in regards to TPP, and it's called the TPP Transparency Chapter, Annex on Transparency and Procedural Fairness for Pharmaceutical Products and Medical Devices. Today, Wednesday, 10th June 2015, WikiLeaks publishes the Healthcare Annex to the secret draft Transparency Chapter of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, otherwise known as the TPP. Along with each country's negotiating position, the Healthcare Annex seeks to regulate state schemes for medicines and medical devices. On public access to medicine... Oops, wait on, I missed something here. Healthcare Annex seeks to regulate schemes for medicines and medical devices. It forces healthcare authorities to give big pharmaceutical companies more information about national decisions on public access to medicine, and grants corporations greater power to challenge decisions they perceive as harmful to their interests. Expert policy analysis published by WikiLeaks today shows that the Annex appears to be designed to cripple New Zealand's strong public health care program and to inhibit the adoption of similar programs in developing countries. The Annex will also tie the hands of the U.S. Congress in its abilities to pursue reforms of Medicare programs. And that's just one little section. Let's click on the TPP Intellectual Property chapter. Today, 13 November 2013, WikiLeaks released the secret negotiated draft text for the entire TPP Trans-Pacific Partnership Intellectual Property Rights chapter. The TPP is the largest ever economic treaty encompassing nations representing more than 40% of the world's gross domestic product. The WikiLeaks release of this text comes ahead of the decisive TPP Chief Negotiator Summit in Salt Lake City, Utah, on 19th through 24th, 2013. The chapter published by WikiLeaks is perhaps the most controversial chapter of the TPP due to its wide-ranging effects on medicines, publishers, internet services. Yeah, let that sink in. Internet services, civil liberties, and biological patents. Significantly, the release text includes the negotiation positions and disagreements between all 12 prospective member states. The TPP is the forerunner to the equally secret US-EU Pact, TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, for which President Obama initiated US-EU negotiations in January of 2013. Together, the TPP and the TTIP will cover more than 60% of global gross domestic product. Wow, I cannot read today. I am so sorry, folks. All right, so since I seem to be stumbling through this, we're going to go ahead and take the break that I just kind of ran through, and we'll take the other one a little bit later since I got a late start anyway. If you are interested in this stuff, you can find it. Actually, a lot of the stuff that I've been sending out has been retweets from other places. These links are readily available, so you should be able to find them. I will put them on my Facebook page later today on the America is Coming Off the Rails page for anyone who wants to look them over, just in case you can't find them on your own. But it is about time for us to go ahead and take that first break. All right, folks, well, we're up to the first break of the show. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes. Don't forget, as soon as I'm done, it's time for Grouchy, and then the According to Me show moves into its new slot right here on K98 Talk.
Now's the time to get involved. The Coalition for a Strong America is the only conservative grassroots organization meeting with congressmen and high-level staffers on a regular basis. Stephanie Scruggs, co-chairman, is concerned about the upcoming TPA vote.
First of all, what you need to know is that fast-track TPAs is still before Congress, where Congress gives their power to negotiate international trade agreements and treaties to the president.
She recommends contacting your representative and telling them to vote no on this measure. It comes to the floor this Thursday, June the 11th. For more information, go to coalitionforastrongamerica.com and let your voice be heard. This has been a special announcement from K98 Talk.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
This is Misty, owner of Waxit Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
the leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause it's no longer free. You cannot make a move now that the...
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson, and we have been discussing TPA, TPP, and TPIP. No, sorry, that's not it. Good Lord, can they make any more confusing acronyms, please? I mean, really? TTIP, that was it. Sorry. Hey, I used to do network technical support. Sometimes I start using acronyms I remember. So sue me. Okay, so if you want more information from the WikiLeaks stuff that we've been able to find and put together through some folks that have let us know the information is out there, again, I will be putting it up on the America is Coming Off the Rails Facebook page. You can always go there to look over the information. You can also send me a friend request on Facebook under Rowdy Ricky Robinson. I will do a friend request there and post the information there as well. I do have to admit that is my professional profile, as you can tell by the fact that it says Rowdy Ricky Robinson, so I don't spend quite as much time on there as I probably should, but message me, and I do usually check in a couple of times a day, so we can always communicate there. Also, before I forget, another group, or another thing that's trying to get started that I really do support, I want to read over a little bit of information real quick before we get into the rest of the show, because I probably won't take the other break until about 45 after. Alright, so what this is, actually I'm just going to go ahead and read it for you. Sorry, I'm trying to do something and it's taking forever. Okay, so hey there, Answer Cyberbullying on Twitter project update. I'm still looking for help coming up with a good domain name and a logo. If you can help, that'd be awesome. See the other updates. For the record, if you want to throw a couple of bucks at it, that's great, but I'm going to do this regardless of donations. I would also appreciate it if you can spread the word about what we're trying to do here. The more people that know about it, the more people will be ready to use the site when it's completed. You can see my ad for a programmer to handle the database, programming, and Twitter API stuff here. Stay tuned, I post updates regularly. Disclaimer, do not give more than what you are comfortable with. I will be doing this project regardless of donations. That being said, bullying threats and doxing, finding and publishing personal information are common and spreading problems on Twitter. While I'm sure this is not limited to my followers, enough of my followers have experienced these activities quite severely, ergo I am attempting to build a website that will allow Twitter users to post the link to a threatening tweet. The site will then store that tweet in a database that can be searched by sender, recipient, date, and content. The site will also store a screenshot of said tweet. The database will only be searchable by law enforcement and Twitter should they request it. The viewable website will contain links to federal and state laws applicable to online threats and bullying. Even if no one donates to this cause, I'm doing this. I have already contacted some contractors to start developing the site. Contractors aren't free, and neither is hosting and upkeep. Again, I'm doing this regardless of how much comes in. The $1,000 mark is completely arbitrary. That being said, any help that comes in is very much appreciated. So, if you are wanting to help, there is a GoFundMe link. It's nope, that's the ad for the programmer. Hang on. It's GoFundMe.com/VSSMJD5 is the link that will take you straight to the GoFundMe page. If you do have the ability to donate, please feel free to do so. If you have the ability to donate some of your time to make sure this site gets off the ground, please do that as well. Simply put, Twitter is no longer the fun, happy-go-lucky place that it once was. And I don't care if you're right, left, or center. If you are bullying people or doxing people, then you are part of the problem. So let's make sure that Bill gets the support that he needs to make sure this project gets started and gets started rapidly. All right, so that being said, now that we are down to about the last half hour, I guess we finally have to change gears, and I have to talk about something that I'm really, really, really getting tired of constantly having to talk about. But since the president has decided to stick his nose in it again, I guess we really don't have much of a choice. So I'm going to start by playing an interview of some of the folks involved in this particular situation. And that is the one out of McKinney, Texas.
A witness shot this video when police arrived, showing an officer using what some say is excessive force on a teenage girl and even pulling a gun on those teens.
The officer has been identified as Corporal Eric Casebolt. He's been put on administrative leave now, pending an investigation. First on Fox 4's Zahid Arab is in our newsroom now with more on what that teenage girl and homeowners there have to say happened.
Well, Rich, those angry with the officer's actions believe he let his emotions get the best of him, saying that he drew his weapon at teens and swimsuits. But those supporting Casebolt say party guests that disobeyed orders forced him to do it.
So we're going to press the city, all right? Number one.
Together in a circle, strangers at the police station pray for compassion.
God is our shield, our banner.
Defense on what's become a divisive issue nationwide. Police brutality or public defiance. After this video shows was a fight between an invited graduation pool party guest of a resident and another woman, the nearly 70 guests disperse when police get there.
He told me to keep walking, and I kept walking, and then I'm guessing he thought we were saying rude stuff to him.
Moments later, McKinney Police Corporal Eric Casebolt takes down 15-year-old Dejiria Becton, an invited guest who says she was not involved in the fight.
He grabbed me, and he twisted my arm on the back of my back, and he shoved me in the grass, and he started pulling the back of my braids, and I was telling him that he can get off me because my back was hurting really bad.
A crowd notices and surrounds Casebolt, prompting the supervisor to unholster his gun and point it at other partygoers. Becton tries to get up, but Casebolt pins her to the ground, holding her down with both knees. She was eventually released to her family, who isn't happy with how the teen was treated.
It wasn't right. I think his force was excessive.
But homeowners who live near the private pool say it was appropriate.
He grabbed her arm to try to handcuff her, and she started resisting immediately, and she should have just stopped at that point, like anybody, and sat down and put her hands behind her back, and he said lie on the floor, and she wouldn't.
This woman who saw doesn't want her face shown because she claims those supporting Casebolt are getting threats.
I'm getting fired isn't enough.
On scene.
I'm getting fired isn't enough.
Police brutality or public defiance.
I am committed to a complete and thorough investigation into this incident.
Withholding judgment.
In Jesus' name, everybody.
Amen. Now, there were no injuries, but one teen was arrested on charges of interference and evading arrest. Becton tells us it was a friend that was trying to push that police officer off of her.
Okay, we know millions have seen this video all across the country, and I'm guessing various groups are reacting to it pretty differently, probably.
Very differently. In fact, the crowd believes Casebolt and other McKinney officers were specifically seeking out minorities and showing aggression towards them, including yelling profanities and putting them in handcuffs. In response, the Next Generation Action Network is planning a march against police brutality tomorrow at 6:30 at Comstock Elementary School in McKinney. Meanwhile, staff at the Craig Ranch Community North Pool put up a sign this afternoon thanking McKinney police, specifically the officers that responded that day, for keeping residents that live there safe. seeking out minorities and showing aggression towards them, including yelling profanities and putting them in handcuffs. In response, the Next Generation Action Network is planning a march against police brutality tomorrow at 6:30 at Comstock Elementary School in McKinney. Meanwhile, staff at the Craig Ranch Community North Pool put up a sign this afternoon thanking McKinney police, specifically the officers that responded that day, for keeping residents that live there safe.
Alright, so a little bit of liberties there with the editing, just to kind of refocus a couple of things that happened there towards the end. Where to begin? Okay, so I've watched what everybody says is the full video, which runs pretty close to 15 minutes. Still not quite sure what causes the officer to do the barrel roll at the beginning. Probably lost his footing. That's one of the biggest comments I see popping up everywhere. Is obviously the dude thinks he's like James Kirk or something, trying to do a roll into a crime scene when there aren't even any shots fired. Too much TV, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. There's something very important that he says, I think in one of the cuts, it's about 6 minutes in, when all of these kids are still standing around them in circles, in the middle of the street, refusing to leave, and he finally just says, look, you can't expect me to be nice to you. You're making me run all over the place with an extra 30 pounds of gear on, and all I'm trying to get you to do is to go the F home. For all of you that, again, are armchair Monday morning quarterbacking this situation, if you've never been in a situation where there are more than 5 people that are basically just completely ignoring what you're saying, there's a use of force escalation protocol. And it exists for a reason. When you are dealing with large-scale situations, it doesn't matter how old they are when they physically have the strength that most 14, 15, 16-year-old kids have. When there's that many of them. Another thing that I want to talk about for a moment, because I keep hearing this over and over and over again. Now, the officer unholstered his weapon and pointed it at the kids. The officer, yes, did unholster his weapon. After he had people come up behind him. He doesn't know who these people are. And one of the biggest things that I hear over and over again is, well, how do you know that kids from a pool party, what do you think? A bunch of kids from a pool party have guns? Did you not see all the other homes and houses around there? How is he supposed to know where guns are and where they're not? Now, when he unholsters his weapon, if you go back and pay particular attention to the video, he unholsters his weapon, puts it at his side, and has it at a 45-degree angle. It is pointing at the ground. He has his weapon in the ready position because he doesn't know who the aggressors are. He had people come up to his back. He had people trying to provoke him and attack him. Then they ran past him. So in case they did something stupid, he drew his weapon and had it at the ready. He was not brandishing it. He didn't wave it around, and you can actually see him once he realizes that he's not alone anymore. He puts the weapon right back down to his side, puts it back in its holster, and re-snaps the holster. Now, one thing I will tell you that I didn't much care for was the fact that he kept dropping language everywhere. But, again, if you don't want to get cussed at by somebody, then when they tell you to go home, go home. Don't do like I plainly heard about, I think it was probably 9 or 10 minutes in. Some little girl, and I don't think it was the same one that wound up getting thrown down. But there was someone that kept saying, well, I need to go back in there to get my sunglasses. My sunglasses are in there. And the cop kept telling them, look, your sunglasses will still most likely be there tomorrow. Regardless, I need you to leave. And they just kept standing there and arguing with him. The simple fact of the matter is the police officers, when they're dealing with a situation like that one, they do not know you from Adam. You can come on national TV and talk about how you'd never hurt a fly. You can have your parents stand up and say, oh, little Jimmy, he's such a good boy. But the simple fact of the matter is the cops do not know you. when you stop complying with their requests, they are going to escalate because they don't have a choice. Because if you're not listening to them, how do they know you're not about to do something stupid if you're not being compliant? Now, whether or not he should have thrown the girl on the ground, I've watched that part of the video over and over and over again. I don't know what provoked it. The video footage that I've been able to see isn't clear enough, but from what I've been able to see from the few that I have looked at from different angles, it looks like the same girl had been coming into and going out of the frame for a while now, and ignoring his repeated commands, and yes, I said repeated commands, to go home. There were several different times when he was speaking to someone who matched the description of the subject that eventually wound up on the ground, and said over and over again, "You need to leave. You need to leave. You need to leave." When you don't listen, when a police officer is telling you to leave the area, and then you still want to mouth off, look, I understand. You're a kid. But, again, I'm going to get hate mail. Rick at K98talk.org. But let me just say this. I don't think the little 14-year-old kids should be the ones that we're mad at right now. We need to go talk to their parents and find out why it is that this group of kids thought they could crash a pool party. Then when the cops get called because they crashed a pool party and they were fighting before the cops got there, that this is okay. I mean, what are we looking at here? We already live in a society that has basically decided that men can no longer be men. They need to be, I don't know, what's a nice way to put this? Wussified versions of what we used to be. We now have the metrosexuals. We have the kinder, softer, gentler men. What are we going to do next? The kinder, gentler police force? I mean, are we about to go Demolition Man PD up in here? You know, the mellow greetings. Please wait for the police to arrive because you have defaced public property. I mean, seriously, is this the type of thing that we think we are headed to? That may have worked then because everybody was used to it. And it's what it was, but we're not there. We can't do the... I'm sorry, you have been found guilty of violating Section 123 of the Penal Code. Please await arrest. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. But it's like that's how people think it ought to be. Look, I get it. Nobody wants to see a cop throwing around a kid. Nobody wants to see a cop throwing around a kid. But what was the cop supposed to do? Let the kid keep hanging around, even though you kept telling them over and over again, if you don't leave, you're going to be arrested. You're going to be detained if you do not leave. And the kid doesn't leave. The cop did not have a choice at that point. Because if he had not done what he said he was going to do, when he felt like at that point he had no other choice, he would have lost complete and total control of that scene. I know this because I've been in large crowd fight situations, and you have to be aggressive when they start doing the things they were doing there. He had people that were talking smack to him. He had people that were behaving aggressively towards him. He had people, a large group of people that were just completely not listening to his commands at all. If he had not done what he did, things would have gotten worse. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I condone what he did. There were ways to do what needed to be done without doing that. Case in point, we used to have a program around here called the President's Physical Fitness Program. And we used to joke around a lot because we would actually get to within about 2 or 3 blocks of a scene that we know we were going to for a large fight or whatever. And we would go in with lights and sirens blaring 3, 4, and 5 cars deep. Because we knew if we started the noise loud enough and far enough away, by the time we got there, most of the people that we thought we might have to deal with would have already run away home. So if I was the commanding officer on scene, that probably would have been exactly what I would have done that night. But I wasn't the officer on scene, and all I can say in that instance is, unless you've been there, sit down and shut up. Now, that being said, we have a statement from somebody who actually, I would assume, has been there. So let's see what he wanted, or what he had to say about it.
He's off the force. The police officer under fire for taking down a bikini-clad teenager at a pool party in McKinney, Texas, has resigned. The McKinney police chief denounced Corporal Eric Casebolt's behavior.
The actions of Casebolt are indefensible. Our policies, our training, our practice do not support his actions. He came into the call out of control, and as the video shows, was out of control during the incident.
Sean Hannity thinks the cop was justified in his actions.
Two guys come up right behind the cop. He sees them, and he doesn't know what threat exists or doesn't exist. I think in that case, because it's so volatile, he felt threatened, and I understand why he felt threatened.
Fireworks erupted when the father of a girl at the pool party appeared on the show.
I don't know what regulation that any enforcement will allow you to pull your weapon out on unarmed children. Let's start with that. That's a child. And I don't care if he was a black officer, white officer,
and how does he know that they're unarmed? Well, how does he know that they're unarmed?
The debate over the pool party has reached all the way to the White House.
Graphic incidents, like the one that we saw depicted on that video, do have a detrimental impact on the relationship between local law enforcement and the local community.
Sir, get on the ground. Hold up, sir. So who is Corporal Eric Casebolt? He's a 10-year veteran of the McKinney Police Department and was named Officer of the Year in 2008. Prior to joining the police force, he served 10 years in the U.S. Navy.
All right. So now the police chief, and bear with me again, this is going to be some of my bias. The police chief openly comes out and says that what he did was against protocol, training, everything else. And I will admit, some of it was. But I don't know. If there's any rank and file cops listening to this, you're probably gonna love me. What the hell, dude? Hang on a second. You are live on the air with Rick. What's up, Grouchy?
Oh, dude, I was just calling to get everything set up. You don't have to go live with me.
We're already on the air, brother. I couldn't help it. It was already.
We are on the air live. Well, that's just grand.
Well, it was dinging all over the place, so I figured I'd at least let everybody know why they were hearing a weird noise.
Well, I was actually going to try to call you on the down low and see if you could cover like 5 minutes for me to give me some time to finish wrapping some stuff up. If you're looking at your Twitter messages, disregard everything. I am good to roll. I just need 5 minutes.
Yeah, not a problem. I can take care of that for you.
All right, brother.
All right, so folks, this is, of course, if you're tuning in right now, you are listening to a little behind-the-scenes stuff right here on K98 Talk. You've just heard the conservative curmudgeon host basically letting me know that he is still going to be live this evening, and we'll be starting that probably...
Yes, he is.
Probably here in about maybe 12 minutes or so, and I guess I'll be talking for at least 3 or 4 of those, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Not a problem. All right, so back to where we were before. Oh, yeah, the police chief. Look, I just have to say this, and again, rank and file cops are probably going to love what I'm about to say. But this police chief in McKinney, Texas, I don't know him. All I can tell you is most of the police chiefs that I've ever been around, it's been a long time since they've done any work in the field. So I think maybe the police chief, while I understand what he needs to do, because unfortunately, when you're chief of a police, you are as much a politician as you are a police officer. The fact that you would blatantly just throw your own officer under the bus like that really kind of pisses me off. Because yes, there were things that were done incorrectly there. He probably should have faced a suspension, maybe some disciplinary action. They could have even went back and did some training of some sort, but they didn't need to basically quietly force him to resign. Now, everybody's saying that's not what happened. All I can tell you is, I'm pretty sure if you were a fly on the wall, you'd probably have a lot different story. Because the simple fact of the matter is, yes, for some reason that officer came into that situation hot. He came in pretty heavy, but nobody got shot. Nobody got dead. And at the end of the day, everybody got to go home. So, I'm sorry, but in law enforcement, that's a triple word score win. Because most of the time, when they have to get involved and people are being as stupid as those kids were, bad things happen. So, we got lucky. And as one interviewer put it, you know, all you Baltimore folks and all you other folks that like to go around and stir up stuff and try to burn buildings down and stuff, this is Texas. We don't do none of that here. So we'll be just fine. Thank you very much. But yeah, so basically, in case you didn't know, that particular officer has resigned, which I don't necessarily think is a bad idea, because personally, having been in those type of situations, if the department that you work for is not going to have your back when things go sideways, because that was a sideways situation. But what was he supposed to do? Yes, everybody keeps talking about the fact that it was kids. It was kids. They're just kids. They weren't just kids at that point. They were kids who have grown up in this whole society and mindset of the fact that they don't have to listen to police officers. They don't have to listen to their own parents, because they know that most of the time, all they have to do is complain just a little bit longer, scream just a little bit louder, and their parents are going to give in and give them whatever the hell they want. Same thing that happened in Ferguson. We had a guy who, up until then, had been able to basically buck up to people and they would back down. He tried it with a cop, tried to fight him for his gun, kid got dead. These kids crash a party that most of them weren't even invited to. Cops get called because of a fight. Instead of leaving when they were asked to leave, they decide to start being dicks. Because why not? Because that's probably exactly the way they talk to their own parents. So again, before we start throwing stones at the cops, we need to start looking a hell of a lot closer to home. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if those kids would have said, hey, look, man, my glasses are in there, but I'll just come back and get them later. I mean, how many times did the cops keep going back and saying, look, if you do not leave, you're going to go to jail. If you do not leave, you're going to go to jail. I've seen the video. A lot more of the video than people are putting around on YouTube. There's a couple of them out there that are closer to the full amount. But a lot of the ones that are getting traction on YouTube just show about 8 minutes worth, which is when the cop was at his worst. But the simple fact of the matter is, before that all happened, he kept telling the same girl multiple times, you need to leave. And he even tells her, now granted, this is the part that I don't like very much, but it's because I have a daughter of my own. While he's got his knee on her back, which I'm a little concerned about, because if you already put handcuffs on her, at that point, I'm pretty sure you could have at least let her sit up. I know if I was in the situation, that would have been what I would have done. Instead of sitting there with my weight pressed against her, because you never know what type of injuries you're going to cause. You keep someone in that type of a position to keep them under control until you have them restrained. So, yes, there were things that I don't think that he did right. But to blatantly have people in the news saying, well, he pointed his gun at children. No, he did not point his gun at children. He had people come up to his blind side, provoking him and saying God knows what to him, and then they took off running past him. So he drew his weapon and had it at a 45-degree angle. Again, that is a ready position. That is not an I'm going to kill you position. That is if you decide to do something stupid, I want to be able to shoot back. Because all of these people that keep talking over and over again about how, well, why was the cop even pulling his gun in the first place? It was a bunch of kids at a pool party. Do you not see all the houses in that video? How many guns are in? It's Texas. Texas. You know, anybody remember World War II? You know, there was a certain Japanese emperor that said, no, we will not invade the mainland of America because if we do, we will face a weapon behind every blade of grass. They were talking about Texas. And we have people that are like, well, how did he even know they had guns? Dude, everybody in Texas has got a gun. You're practically born with a gun in Texas. And Oklahoma is not that much different. So I know this from experience. Well, I may or may not know this from experience because I can neither confirm nor deny that I may have several different types of weaponry somewhere on the premises. Sorry. Just in case anybody from the NSA was listening, I'm not telling you where my guns are. Alright, so at this point, this will wrap this particular episode. Just to go over a couple things again real quick. I do want to take just a second to go ahead and give another quick shout out to the Coalition for a Strong America because they are a grassroots organization fighting the good fight when it comes to the TPA and Fast Track. So, actually, you know what? I don't think I ever took my last break because I got distracted. So, we'll go ahead and play that and then we'll get out of here.
Now's the time to get involved. The Coalition for a Strong America is the only conservative grassroots organization meeting with congressmen and high-level staffers on a regular basis. Stephanie Scruggs, co-chairman, is concerned about the upcoming TPA vote.
First of all, what you need to know is that fast-track TPAs is still before Congress, where Congress gives their power to negotiate international trade agreements and treaties to the president.
She recommends contacting your representative and telling them to vote no on this measure. It comes to the floor this Thursday, June the 11th. For more information, go to coalitionforastrongamerica.com and let your voice be heard. This has been a special announcement from K98 Talk.
This is JD and Stacy with K98 Talk. We're here to talk to you about TPA. You may have called it Fast Track, TPA, or Trade Authority. Whatever it is called, it is a terrible idea and is coming up for a vote as early as June 11th.
Barack Obama is negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership under an unprecedented veil of secrecy. Our congressmen who view it are threatened with legal action if they disclose details of the documents to the American public.
Fast Track or Trade Promotion Authority, if passed, will prevent Congress from making amendments, debating the provisions, and allow passage of trade agreements with a simple majority.
There is no conservative case for Fast Track Trade Promotion Authority. Our systems of checks and balances demands that Congress weigh and debate trade agreements, demand that Congress does their job.
For information about Trade Promotion Authority and what it really means, visit coalitionforastrongamerica.com and then call your congressman and demand they vote no on TPA when it comes to the floor of the House. This has been a public service announcement by JD and Stacy of K98 Talk.
All right, folks, so again, that's going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. Don't forget, I'll be back with you live tomorrow night. We do have an author coming on the show tomorrow night. The author of Commoner Sense, a working man's guide to America. Patrick Fernari, I think is how you say his name. Sadly, I'm not actually spoken to him to hear it enunciated, so I'm probably butchering it. But he will be with us live for the entire show tomorrow to discuss the book and anything else that he feels the need to talk about. So make sure that you tune in for that. Also, do have a bit of announcement for those of you, and sadly you won't hear this, but for those of you who like following along on AM/FM 24/7, America Off the Rails is now coming to that particular affiliate 3 days a week. Now, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Of course, because of the fact that the times they have available are earlier than when we typically run the show, it will be a rebroadcast for them. However, it does now put this particular show on AM/FM markets 3 days a week. So, yay for us. Also, still in negotiations with Leading Edge Radio Network to find a slot for our particular show as well as a couple others from what I understand. So we'll let you know when that happens. At this point, folks, I am going to go ahead and call this particular show a wrap and get ready to change gears and start working on the Grouchy Ones show. And I will be back with you live tomorrow night with the author of commoner sense.